to watch the other video Jermaine told me about. I haven't watched that. I was planning to watch it around 10 a.m., but this is what I have been doing today. I
Mm,
listened to what I learned yesterday, and I've been practicing about it to be comfortable to talk about what I did at FXsoft in Sales Cloud and explain the process and also
mm-hmm.
working on examples, what to say, because I realized yesterday, oh my God, I I knew some stuff, but I didn't know how to put them together or how to explain it. But that really helped me a lot yesterday, Cole. And also the questions that I asked ChatGPT, if you remember.
Mm-hmm.
So I have been reviewing those. So right now, so far, I am comfortable to explain about myself and also talk about the hyper compliant. And so this is what I have been studying today. So
Yeah.
and, um to explain like what I did at FXsoft, even at MJHS, while working in Sales Cloud, how it helped the business processes.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did a lot of so these are some of the questions that I practice. Like, can I share my screen?
Yeah, yeah. Go. Oh,
Okay.
let me just make sure I am able to give you ability
Yeah.
to do that. Let's go ahead.
Yeah. Give me 1 second. Let me open my Google Doc. This is what I've been studying. Give me 1 second. Okay. Mhm. Here. So this is what I'm practicing right now. Jeffrey was also asking me a few questions.
Question.
So this is my tell me about myself, and these are some of the questions from ChatGPT. I have been practicing to showcase what I did in Salesforce, in Sales Cloud
Mm-hmm.
especially. So over here, like how did I deploy custom changes on from sandbox to production?
Mm-hmm.
Um, how much data I did the input, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
for custom reports and dashboards. Managing users' role and permissions. And Jeffrey has been asking me some questions on that.
Yep.
And oh yeah, this is the same also like role profile permission sets and the role hierarchy,
Mm-hmm.
just these general questions. That's pretty much what I've been studying. I don't know. I'll scroll.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, types of
S-
flows I worked on, how
mm.
I
So
did it.
so so let me ask, the MJ, what is this MJ HS?
And yeah, it's called MJHS.
Okay, uh at now, did you work for, are you saying you work for them directly, or did Effectsoft send you there?
Oh no, that's a old company. I worked at MJHS before as a Salesforce admin, and then I moved to FXsoft.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay. And you, okay, so here you're saying that you created a patient intake flow. Okay,
yeah,
using a screen flow to guide staff through process. Okay, okay. This flow included screens for entering demographic. Oh yeah, that's good. That's good. Where did you get this information from? Did we talk? Did
ChatGPT.
we talked about it?
Oh no, we didn't talk about it actually.
Oh.
So what I did, I showed ChatGPT this one. I pasted these informations.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I gave it to the recorder and sent it to the company. So I told ChatGPT to ask me questions based on these informations. So that's what ChatGPT created. Um, Also based on what I have been feeding it, and I told it to provide me different type of flow that I worked on there. So I was like, yeah, things
Okay,
like this.
good, good.
Yeah.
Because that is something that I wind up doing a lot for in my company is to our intake process sometimes is requiring a very complicated flow. Let's see. The flow includes screens for entering demographics. Okay. And what's demographics to you?
Uh, Demographics,
Yeah.
like age group.
Hmm. Age group?
Yeah.
What?
There's
That's one part.
oh yeah, so age group, gender,
Hmm.
probably the income level too.
Could be. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know why nonprofits tend to collect the demographics?
I think so they could they could have they could know what kind of people they're actually helping, like I think something like that, to know what kind of people specifically, like what kind of age, their level of income, just to know basically a lot about them, I think.
Yeah, yep. They are going to want to know, but they have a specific reason why they'll want to know. So the way a lot of nonprofits, well, all nonprofits, they don't make a profit, right?
Yeah.
So what happens is that they must get the money from somewhere. Do you know where the nonprofits get their money from?
Probably from different donations.
One is donation, exactly, and the other one is going to be things like government contracts,
Mm,
right? Now,
yeah.
the donors, let's say you're going to be donating, right? A lot of times your donation goes, look, I'm donating this $1 million, providing that you help Africans, you know. But if you're not helping Africans, I don't want you to put my money, into a general pot. It needs to help out Africans, and particularly female Africans, and particularly female Africans from Tanzania, right?
Um,
You see how detailed the donors get,
yeah.
right? So so that's why they collect the demographics because a lot of times they'll collect money from donors and also contracts, right? And then they must then tell the the people that donated the money or the contracts that they get who they're actually spending the money on because it's usually what we call a requirement of the donors or the contract, the people who give the money for contracts. They will require you to collect the information so you could prove that you are actually taking care of the people that they want you to work with. You see what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Okay, now give me 1 second. I'm gonna put myself on mute and then I'll pick up in a second.
Yeah. Hi, Jermaine. Jermaine.
And
Hey. Do you have interview?
nothing coming up at the moment.
Oh, okay.
So far, I'm just listening and good job so far.
Oh, yeah. I
Hmm.
don't know what they're gonna ask me tomorrow, but yeah, I'm just
You have a
oh
general idea, so that helps you.
yeah, I have a general idea. Yesterday was really helpful. I didn't know how to put it together about like, like Sales Cloud and show what I did. Even though I
Hmm.
know, of course, yeah, customization and configuration. But yeah. Did you get a lot of these technical interviews, Jermaine, on
Um,
your previous?
I've had a couple, but not to this. Well, when I interviewed at MJHS, I had a technical interview.
Oh, what kind of question did they ask you?
At MJHS,
Yeah.
have I ever worked nonprofit before? Do I understand what HIPAA, understand HIPAA requirements? Um, what I done in Salesforce? Well, what have I done since working? You know, because I let them know I was out of work. So, well, what have you done since then? And um, I should have been working on my wife's app at that time, because I could have
Oh,
spoke to that and even showed them, but I didn't. I wasn't working on my wife's app at the time. Um, Things of that nature. And I mean, I thought it was a good interview, you know. But
what else? Like a really like technical, like technical.
well, yeah, I mean, they asked me what my knowledge of MJHS was. Was I willing to do hybrid because it was a hybrid role? Um, oh, excuse me. Also, they asked, like, let's say, what type of flows did I do? You know, but they mainly asked about what I did when I was working with Metric 5/TSA. So, about my Service Cloud. But then they did mention, because I had on my resume BCBS, which is Blue Cross Blue Shields on my resume. So they asked me about that as well.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Okay, so
I never heard back from them. But
you never heard back from whom?
that MJHS that I was talking about, she had asked me.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so,
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, it's all good, all good. Yeah, so happiness, that's also some of the things about nonprofits, right? They get they get donations and they win contracts from like the city government or something like that, right?
Um,
And then a lot of times they are collecting demographics, and gender information because they have to fulfill what we call the requirements of the people that are funding them, and those
um,
people are called funders. So that's also some other things that you'd have to eventually, that's like the nonprofit terminologies. Hmm.
mm,
Okay. So so you have this, let's see, the flow includes entering demographics, insurance details, referral reasons. Oh, check it out. So that thing even had referral reasons. Very nice. Before this flow was implemented, staff were using multiple screens and forms. Yeah, very nice. I could actually show you something with that too, you know. But we'll do that a little later on if you want to see how
yes,
how that kind of
definitely.
all works.
Yeah.
Okay, let's
For
see what
now,
else.
I'll just feed my head so I can be ready for tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah, yep, exactly. Let's see. Since we're talking about it, let me take over the screen. I'll show it to you.
Yeah. Oh, okay, I'll
Okay.
stop share.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll show it to you from a sandbox point of view. Let's go here. Okay. This is my company's sandbox.
Ooh.
Okay. And so right now I'm building out something called a clinic, right? In this case, it's for a high school. They're putting a clinic in it, right? And that clinic is going to take in high school students, right? To analyze them to make sure that, whatever trauma they're going through, that that they get treated for it, therapy, right? So that's what this is doing, right? This app that I'm building out for them. But so the way it works is that number one, not everyone can use this app, right? So I have to be able to just give it to specific people who can use it, right? So I'm just going to log in as one of those people, right? So one of those guys, his name is Christian, and he's a therapist. So he's a social worker at Bushwick Leaders, but which is another high school, but the idea is that he is a therapist. And as a therapist, what happens is that I just want to show you this, right? Is that, let's see, he's a therapist and he's got permissions to use this. Okay, yeah. Uh, one second here. Uh, so in public groups, right, there's a whole bunch of different things that go on. Do you know why you use public groups?
Um, yeah, to give more permission to more users, to extend more permission to more users.
Yeah, and so you want to create public groups to do different things. In this case, right, this guy Christian belongs to multiple groups. He's a staff at this high school called Bushwick Leaders, but he's also a therapist, in the Brooklyn clinic at the same time. Right. So when I click on here, he's going to be in it and he's a therapist. That's what gives him access to the clinic, but he also has access to a high school called Bushwick Leader. So that's how we're giving out access. So when he logs in, right, he has access to the clinic, but he also has access to this community schools, which includes Bushwick Leaders. So he could switch between the two. See, this is Bushwick Leaders. See that? You know, because he's given permission, and the way he's given permission is through these public groups. You see how that works?
Yeah.
So that's one thing. Now, given that, right, and looking at this, right, so I built a flow, and it's called Clinic Intake, right? And when I click on it, it starts to ask for a lot of the information, right? Who's going to be completing it, what date, the referral source. In this case, it's a high school. It could be a high school teacher that's referring that that person, right? And then it's going to gather a lot of the information, student first name, date of birth, all of that stuff, the gender. Now notice I want HUD specific gender. So do you know who HUD is?
Oh no.
HUD is a big um, government facility. Um, do it this way, HUD. Okay. HUD stands for the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. So HUD has very distinct no genders, and this is their genders. Woman or girl if it's child, man or boy if it's child, non-binary. Do you know what non-binary is?
Um, People who I think they don't really have specific gender.
No, non-binary just means if you're a woman, you are a woman. Doesn't mean that you could switch gender. That's what
Uh,
non-binary mean, right? You know what transgender means?
yeah, the people who have uh a different gender, like
Well, they're transitioning their gender to from what they were born with to a different gender,
yeah.
right? And even questioning. I'm questioning which gender I am. You see, you have all these different things, and even this one, culturally specific identity, including two-spirited. Do you imagine that? But these are government-specific gender classes, you see? And then race and ethnicity, these are the categories that they have, and so on and so on. So you're right. This is what we call the demographic, right? And then it goes on to different things, the guardian information, because you have to capture that information because these are students, they're young people, right? Their household information, and so on and so on, right? And then I need to know what is the reason, that they are coming in for, what are the risks that they're coming in, and so on and so on, right? So all of that stuff is captured, and this is a flow that does it, right?
Mm,
So just something to keep in mind, and then reports have to be put into place, you know, um, about what where that intake is in at the moment, because there's an approval process that I set up also, right? So there's a lot of things that goes on, with setting up something like that. Does that make sense to you?
yeah.
You know,
Right.
so uh,
Well,
so
Lou, I think you're showing us that as an example of what happiness can say about the company that she has for the medical company as an example.
yeah, so that could be something that she can potentially say that she did that, she did an intake and this is what it looks like and so on and so on. I don't think they'll go into it that detail, but it's more to give her an example of how I would do it for a nonprofit that I've been saying. Not only that I would do it, but I did do it for nonprofit, and that's only one of many intake screens. So patient intake screen is definitely something that you would put together all at once. Otherwise, all the stuff is in separate in like 3 or 4 separate areas in Salesforce.
Right.
So the staff
Mm,
would like to just have one screen that does the whole thing. You see what I mean?
yeah.
Otherwise,
That was a real
because
nice. Yeah.
yeah, they don't want and staff doesn't really want to learn Salesforce. What they want to do is just to fill out a form and submit it, and here it is. So that's what staff really wants, So,
Do you
uh,
understand that?
Mm,
yeah. But
I think
you go back to your screen, happiness.
okay.
But the point of all that is that staff does not want to put demographic, save it, then go to this screen for insurance and save it, then go to this screen and put in the referrals. They want the whole thing all at once, right?
Yeah.
That's why you do the flow, the patient intake flow, as you called it.
no.
Yep. Yeah. I
Okay.
guess I can keep practicing these. I guess they look good, right? I
Yeah,
should.
this is great.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
let me
Yeah.
see this one here. Okay. So you have three, which is tell me about a flow, but then you have one on the bottom. How come it switches from three to one?
Three. Oh, no, I was just copying and paste from
Oh,
ChatGPT.
oh, I
Yeah.
see, I see. Okay, so this one is how have you used Sales Cloud to support business operations? Okay. And effects of a setup and manage Sales Cloud. um, to support the client's supply chain operations, especially for tracking large orders, vendor interactions, and vendor levels. Okay, you customize standard objects like opportunities and accounts and create a custom object that could fit them. And you also build automated approval processes for large orders. Wow, check it out.
Uh,
Okay, which reduced. Okay, so when you say automated approval processes, so what does that mean?
um, this should be the the order that need to be approved, just automatic by putting different conditions on the approval process. So it when the for example, in this case, when these order meet those conditions, then it will be approved, just automatic approved.
Okay, so how is it reducing the manual approval process and time?
Instead of waiting,
Okay.
yeah,
So,
it's just going to be approved automatic, just but like that because it meets the conditions.
okay. I think what you mean, right, when you reduce manual approval time, and ensure that the orders move forward without delays. Okay, automated approval process. Okay, so what you're saying is that if a large order comes in, there's no need for paperwork to go to a manager or have it signed off. You have criteria that will allow the large order to go forwards, and that process has been automated, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and that helps streamlines it, and you develop the flow that to automatically update the inventory. Okay, that's good. All right, let's go down further. How did you customize Service Cloud at MJHS to support patient case management? Okay, you worked on the Salesforce Service Cloud to support. Okay, case management. My role involved customizing case objects, creating assignment rules, and building flows. So who would at the MJHS? What kind of staff member would actually put in a Service Cloud ticket? Example, I designed an assignment process that matched cases with staff based on location, large language preferences, ensuring patients were assisted by someone who could understand their needs quickly and efficiently. Okay, so in this case, the Service Cloud was used for the patient case management system. Okay. So this allowed the patient to put in a ticket? Is that the idea behind this one?
The case managers,
The case managers?
yeah, for the patients.
Okay. So so there would be something um I'm not so sure I understand this so well, the way that it should work. Jermaine, you worked on your cases, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. In the aspect of what she's writing here, right, I think she's saying, and now let me just make sure I understand it, Happiness. You're saying that a case manager would put in a ticket for the patient's case, right? For
Yeah.
for the for the patient's record, basically.
Mhm.
Hmm. Is that the way yours worked, Jermaine?
No, and when I was at TSA, we had the I mean the client would just simply tell us exactly um, what they would like for us to they would put in the ticket, or we would create the ticket. They would tell us what the problem is, and then we would just simply create the ticket and then execute or solve that particular problem that the client had. So it was more of on a very basic level.
Right,
Uh,
but that's an internal client to to the Salesforce,
correct,
correct?
correct.
Right. So it'll be a staff over there.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, happiness in this case, I mean,
I would probably that's a little tricky there because especially if they're familiar with patient case management systems, that might throw them off. Or
yeah.
they might go into much more detail than you could care to explain. So you might want to be a little careful with this one.
Well, let me ask, does someone happen if someone asks you what is your ticketing system, how would you answer that?
Oh my God. I need to start for that. I don't know.
Okay. So typically a ticketing system is go or help desk system, right? Because not quite so sure what you're doing in this case. Is it like some staff is saying, "Hey, there's something wrong with my screen. I need this fixed, or I need a new field." What exactly is this Service Cloud, ticket doing? Is it supposed to be for the staff to complain about the screens that they need it fixed, or is it about the patient having a problem? You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Is it the patient calling in to saying, "Hey, I'm having heart problems"? Is that what that's about? Or is it about, "Hey, I'm a
Um,
case manager and I'm missing a field here. I should have insurance information, but it's missing for me."
oh,
What is this?
I think when a patient has an issue and they want their case to be routed to their case manager, for example, like that, because MJHS, they also offer um health plans. Maybe they're having issue with their health plan. Oh,
Hmm.
um, anyway, so when they have that kind of issue, their case can be escalated to the right staff member. That's what I'm thinking.
Okay, they might ask you this question though. At MJHS, what is the demographics of the patients?
Old patients.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
Geriatrics. But how would they act? How would they submit the ticket is the question.
Right, because
Because
old people, right, that's
I,
not something they generally do.
oh yeah,
I
that's true.
mean,
So what should I say? My ticketing system. I don't know. I didn't practice on that.
but I'm saying, right, so you're saying this is for the patient to have a complaint, and then it comes into Salesforce somehow, right? And then someone works on it to get it fixed, right?
Yeah.
But how does the patient actually, because you can't give the patient a user license. So how does the patient access Salesforce in this case?
Oh,
I
that's
think the best way to explain that might be to say it this way. I'm just shooting the breeze, just thinking. You could say, well, when a patient files a complaint, they're complaining to a staff member or like to a doctor or nurse or somebody who's attending to them, and then they'll just put it into the system what this person's complaint is. Well, you're responsible for maybe creating the fields, or you're responsible for creating, the system to help make it easier for the people to file the complaint when the person like when like to log in the complaint when the person makes the complaint. I don't know, maybe something like that.
Hmm. Okay. So I think happens what you're saying is the patient calls someone at the hospital, right? that person then asks their name or whatever it is, and then logs into Salesforce uh and then
Lou, at the patients, mainly the old patients at this hospital, they basically stay at the hospital because this is more end of life care
right, end of life care.
type of thing. So they're not going to most likely call in. They'll already be in there, you know, and then they'll have some sort of probably an issue, and they're going to tell a staff member, somebody who's working with them. And then I think that's how that works with MJHS. That's what
Okay.
I gathered from, looking them up and stuff like that.
Okay. Because I don't think this is the way Salesforce would have worked for them. This would be too slow for that to happen if they have an emergency. Let's say they coded, right? Meaning their heart stopped. You can't go into Salesforce and put it in. You know what
Not
I
to
mean?
have time for
Yeah.
What
So
it.
so Jermaine, you said you went through like a technical interview. What kind of questions did they ask you?
Oh,
With MJHS, I went through a tech interview. This was couple of months ago.
Uh,
Basically, well, they started off with some basic questions. Well, am I willing to do hybrid? Come into the office, I think it was in 2 days a week or something like that. Yada yada yada. Okay, yes. Um, then they mainly asked me, what was my knowledge of HIPAA? Am I familiar with HIPAA? Am I familiar with what MJHS do? You know, um, then they mainly asked me about my experience at TSA. And then when I told them, I mean, they knew that I was out of work at the
yeah,
time. So they said, well, what have I done since, being out of work? You know,
right.
and here was the one question that they asked that I think may have messed me up. Um, because, do you have you kept up with, like, let's say, the Salesforce releases and stuff like that? So you're going to say yes. Okay, tell me one new feature is in the Salesforce release that recently came out, and I couldn't do that.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's a good one. Happiness taking notes.
Right.
Yeah,
that one.
with the releases. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because like you have to know what they're gonna probably ask, name one feature of the latest release that just came out. They want to see if you've been really keeping up on it. So you might want to
Gotcha.
brush up on that because that one threw me off. I didn't
Right.
see that coming.
oh, they asked you that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So what kind of ticketing system should I say if they ask me? I don't know, Ben.
No, well, see, here's the thing. They asked me what type of DevOps did I use, and I told them I used Azure DevOps, and they were familiar with that, and yada 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 yada. Now, with the ticketing system, you could probably maybe use ChatGPT and ask them and see if ChatGPT knows what type of ticketing system does is used at MJHS. Maybe they wouldn't, ChatGPT might know the answer. Matter of
Yeah.
fact, yeah, go to ChatGPT now and see if they can give you that answer, because it would be helpful to know it.
Yeah, I'm not so sure if this is very specific to what they do, because how would they know it? How would ChatGPT know it?
Hey, how? Because they posted a job posting recently.
Lou, what
Mm-hmm.
kind of ticketing are you using in your company?
Uh, so what happens is that if we have an issue, right, they just send our Salesforce email team a message, right, through email, and then we pick it up and
Oh,
yeah, and then we go ahead and work on it. You
You
know,
know what?
so
You
that
might want to just use that, what you just said.
hmm Or help desk will send us an email saying that someone can't log in, to Salesforce, and then we'll get that and we'll look into it, things like that. But we don't have a specific ticketing system, but some people do. Like for instance, they might use Jira, you know, and I think this is suspicious. Suppose if you says, does MJHS use Jira? Let me see if it answers that question.
oh yeah, it's actually said Azure developed one time.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's interesting that it actually answered something. It said, "Let me know if you like the version of this resume or want to contract this effective use of Azure DevOps." Okay, interesting.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, you could say something very simple, but here's the thing. So if they send you an email, that there's a problem. First of all, what kind of problem would it be? Is it again, now you have to ask yourself, is it that the patient's having a problem or is it that the staff is having a problem with Salesforce?
I
You
would say
see?
the staff. Don't mention the patient.
Yeah, because there's no way they would put in like the patient's having a heart attack. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah. Patients is going to complain about what's physically happening to them. They're not going to put into Salesforce, hey, this is what's physically happening to me. They're not going to do
I
that.
mean, no, they might do that, say, at the end of the day after they fixed up the patient. Like they electroshock the patient's heart, but they're not going to take the time to log into a computer and put it in. Patient is having a heart attack. You know what I mean?
Right.
That
Yeah.
doesn't happen like that. What they'll do is they'll go into the case of the patient in Salesforce and go, patient had a stroke today, right around 10 o'clock. It's like medical records. Do you know how medical records are done? Right? Medical records are done after all the work has been done, so that they could record all of that,
Yeah, like a
right?
patient's blood work was done at X amount of time, at certain time, boom, they record all that stuff.
Yeah. You know, so you wouldn't really create a case record, you
Not
know.
for not for the patient. What you would do it for is the staff. Like
Yeah,
they, you know,
staff is requesting a field, for this information, and it's currently not there. It's a new field. The new field has to be approved because you don't want to have too many fields on this object, that kind of thing. So
right.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Okay. I think happiness has more or less a general idea of what she needs to study. I think what she's gonna do, she's been doing it most of today, is just keep prepping for tomorrow's call.
Yeah, I
And
would
right.
focus more on what you did at the FXsoft, not as much with the MJHS, because FXsoft is your most recent example. So they're going to really focus a lot more on that than so much the
Mm,
MJHS. Now they're going to ask some questions on that, but their main focus is going to be at what you did for Salesforce. I mean,
Mhm.
FXsoft, sorry.
I guess I'm gonna have to
Hold on
focus.
your resume, because I forgot. Are you saying MJHS is your most recent experience, or is the one at Epic Source your most recent experience?
But actually, Effectsoft is the most recent
Yeah.
experience. But she seems to be
MJHS
getting no Effectsoft.
or Epic Soft?
Effectsoft.
Okay, so focus mainly on that. Yes, because that's the one you're gonna have to nail down, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I guess we'll do that. Yeah, I guess Happiness, you said you were gonna get off in a bit to just keep on practicing, but I guess you'll let the guys know how the interview goes tomorrow,
Yeah, I
right?
mean, I
I need
went
to
through
watch
that
it
video
so
I
you send me
sent you.
too, Jermaine. Yeah.
I went through that video I sent you yesterday. That would be good for you to talk about if you could understand that video because we walked literally through the sales process and the I mean the like creating record types, why we created the record types, the page layouts, what we did saying using the edit page and stuff like that when with the whole thing with the related list and things of that nature. That would really, if could go a long way to helping you out if you could speak to that.
Yeah.
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 Okay. Yeah, I think that sounds
Yeah, I think
good.
I'm gonna watch that video because I didn't get a chance to watch it. I was just I watched the last night video we did together and then I was practicing these questions. Yeah, I need to watch that video so I can have more confidence.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
if you can talk to that video, you'll do fine.
Yeah.
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 But you're still gonna prepare if they ask you what ticketing system you use, that you tell them something.
What I would say is for FXsoft, you use Azure, Azure DevOps. Just keep it simple. Or Atlassian, you could mention that one. You know,
I think I have Azure DevOps on my resume. So I
so they
think
say you use that for
um,
FXsoft.
oh,
For
okay.
for
Wait, yes.
MJMHS, you could just say y'all just it wasn't so much a ticketing system as it was when there would be a problem, an email would be sent to you guys. I would just keep it that simple. An email was
Yeah.
sent to let you know that there was an issue.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
now, do you know what SLDC is?
SLDC?
Mm-hmm.
No, what is that?
I meant SDLC.
SDLC. Like
Yeah.
SDLC.
Yes. Do you know what that is?
No.
Salesforce software.
Developer?
No.
Like
Limited company.
oh,
No.
No, I don't know. What is it? What is it, Lou?
Jermaine, do you know?
SDLC, I heard of that one, but no.
Press enter.
Development life cycle. Ah, software. Okay. Yes. Okay.
So, STLC is the development life cycle for any software, right? And generally, what they really want you to do, because I don't think anyone else does anything else than Agile, right? So you'll have to tell them, yes, we use Agile in our company. That's our SDLC, right? So sometimes they will ask you about that, because a lot of times they're going to be saying, well, are you familiar with it? Have you used it? Is this what your company uses? And things like that, right? So I would have some knowledge about that.
Oh,
Otherwise,
here's what you can say to that. And I would be proactive. I wouldn't wait for them to ask. You could say, look, well, for the FXsoft, what you could say is, what I use for our ticketing, we used Azure DevOps for our Jira soft program. We use DevOps, I mean Azure DevOps, and in Azure DevOps we used it to create user stories for sprint planning. You should mention that like ahead of time, so this way it makes it look like yeah you're familiar with it rather than you wait for them to ask you.
yeah, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay,
okay,
so I guess the takeaway is happiness, right?
Yeah.
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 Okay.
So a lot
So
of times they're going to be asking about how is your development done, right? But they definitely want to hear about sprints,
Yes,
agile,
yes.
user stories, right?
Hmm.
Yep. Yeah, that's true.
And you did that all using Azure DevOps or Atlassian or any other Jira, type, but
Yeah,
mainly,
Azure.
yeah, Azure DevOps. Just mention that and you'll be fine. And then be specific. We used it for sprints, user stories, tasks, all that other stuff. That's documentation.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any
Right.
questions? Okay on your end?
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's go back to her. Could you go back
Yeah,
to your
I
notes for a second? We'll do it
Yeah.
quickly though.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so you got this. How do you use reports and
Mhm.
dashboards? Do you have any questions on that?
Oh, for dashboard,
Reports and
for report.
dashboards.
No. I think this is like very explainable and also we did it a lot in classes.
Do you know what a
So
KPM
I just
is?
have sorry,
KPM. Have you heard of
Kate.
that?
No. What is
Okay,
that?
that's a key performance metrics, right?
I thought it was KPI, Lou.
Okay, there is that too. Yeah, so
Okay.
they generally call it KPI.
KPI. Okay.
That's a key performance
Indicator.
indicator, right?
Oh,
But yeah, Jermaine is right. Instead of KPM, they generally use KPI.
Kate.
KPI.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, do you think they're gonna ask me this?
They might, for instance, in your reports, they're going to say, "Hey, what KPIs, did you set up for your executives?" So they might say different things like that.
Oh
Like you
no,
see how,
they will even ask you what is a KPI.
yeah,
That
they'll
I've had been asked before.
they ask you that question.
I've been asked that question once before. Yes, a while
Yeah.
back ago. Couldn't answer it.
Okay.
But yeah, I know it now. But yeah, back then I couldn't answer it.
So a lot of reports and dashboards, they're going to track like where the system currently is, and different things like that. And like how you saw my approval process somewhere in the approved section. Another one is in the waiting for approval. So it kind of tracks like where things are and things like that. But a lot for the executives, they're going to want to know what, how much revenues am I making this quarter? Am I below last quarter? And all kinds of different things, right? So that's where your reports and dashboards are coming in, right? And they might ask, hey, what are the KPIs that you use to set up the dashboards, the reports and dashboards? And then, so you shouldn't get confused if they ask that, and if you said, I'm sorry, what is a KPI? I think that will be a very not
That'd
good
be
thing to say.
No, don't
yeah.
ask. But if they ask you, you don't know, don't make up something. If you don't know, just say, "I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous and it just escaped me." So I would say something like that.
You're
Hmm.
like all the FOPs. Wow.
Because we all get a little nervous in interviews and you forget something that's real basic.
Yeah. Because I know what you're saying vendor performance metrics, and like I said, they're really key performance metrics or indicators, right? So that's the more general term, you
Yeah.
know. Um, Scroll down more, let me see. How how have you integrated Salesforce with other tools to improve it? Okay, you did the Azure DevOps, you know. Okay, yep. And scroll that down a little bit more.
Oh, that's it, right?
Okay,
Ooh,
suppose if
that's
they
it.
ask you which managed packages have you used? Which App Exchange packages have you used?
App exchange packages.
Yeah.
Let's say at
Mm.
FXoft, what App Exchange package do you use?
Effector.
Mm,
It's app exchange.
Yeah, yeah. Effective would be one, but that's for the company.
right.
But you would use other things
You
too.
hold on. Didn't you mention something about price and price books and stuff like that, that you help with that or something like that?
Me?
Yeah, you say you set up objects for prices, price books or
Oh, yeah,
something.
that was my account, but I'm not sure if happiness
No, well,
uses
if
it.
you mention that you're dealing with price and price books and things of that nature, you might want to say you used DocuSign.
Oh, oh yeah, DocuSign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
because
so you
that's the very popular one.
you have to think right. So remember, you do want to say that they might ask you questions like, what are the popular App Exchange products you installed, for your company, and how did you use it? Things like that, because they want to make sure that you understand the integrations,
Oh,
right?
so I'll say DocuSign. And how do you use DocuSign again?
It is used to like electronic for electronic signature.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Or if you want to be even more creative, but keeping it simple, you could say e-sign because that's the free version. It's not as complex as that, or it's not as robust as DocuSign, but there's a free version out there. You could even mention that.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you
Uh,
really want to mention something, you could also mention NPSP.
NPSP, nonprofit service pack. Yes. That's another thing that I also mention a lot about because I've actually done it. So I'm familiar with it.
non-profit.
Nonprofit service pack, NPSP.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds good, guys. Happiness, do you have any questions or you're
I think I'm okay. NPSP. Non-profit service
Service
package.
pack.
What
Pack.
pack? Oh,
Matter of fact, do that in your sandbox tonight. It only takes about 10-15 minutes.
Yeah, but
okay.
then she'd have to really understand it,
Well, no,
you
yeah,
know.
Yeah.
well, to just install it. I don't mean I understand just to install it. Then you can say you installed it.
Yes, but you know what? Stop the video. Let me take over for a second because we have NPSP, right? I just
Right.
want to show her a
Stop the
little bit of
video.
that.
Okay.